according to this report, $22 billion was used over the last few years to help migrants with things like homes, cars, education, small business loans of up to $15,000, and even loans to help with credit scores. All of this is taxpayer money. So a watchdog group called Open the Books is behind this investigation. According to their findings, the Office of Refugee Resettlement, which is part of HHS, distributed the billions of dollars. It's not the first time the office has faced criticism. Last year, an Inspector General report revealed the ORR could not track down around 32,000 unaccompanied migrant children. Here's a breakdown of just how much grant money was awarded with your tax dollars, according to this watchdog report. In 2021, they gave out more than $2 billion. In 2023, that skyrocketed to more than $10 billion. That's during the same time period we saw a record number of migrant encounters at the southern border, and then in 2024, more than $4 billion. According to the report, most of the funding went toward programs for unaccompanied migrant children. Other programs that I mentioned before include matching savings for cars, homes, education, small business loans, legal help, Medicaid, migrants from Cuba and Haiti, humanitarian parolees from Afghanistan and Ukraine, special immigrant visa holders from Afghanistan and Iraq, and unaccompanied minors, all eligible for these grants.
We're hurting American taxpayers. And again, people in places like North Carolina, Los Angeles, that have lost everything. How is it moral to ask them to pay the bill for someone who wants to come to this country illegally? That's outrageous.
And we have reached out to HHS and ORO. We want them to respond to this report, and we obviously have a lot of questions about how this money was spent. We still have not heard back, Harris.
All right, Brooke, thank you. Look, Kennedy, you and I were both reacting. Yeah, why would you spend money to help people who are here illegally? This is from a viewer who reached out to me. She's in Cape Coral, Florida. And she says, Harris, could the government give all the taxpayers a refund from the money they're finding that went to places it never should have gone?
Yes, that is the next step, and that is the next natural step. When you are finding all of this money, when you are taking it back, when you are cutting off future streams of funding, give that back to the American people. Then you will see the economy absolutely explode, and people will once again be able to take out new loans and start new businesses and all the wonderful things that follow when they have more of their own money. But, you know, I'm personally really upset with this because I know people in Los Angeles and Altadena and Pacific Palisades who lost their homes, many of whom didn't have insurance because the insurance companies were basically, forced out of the state. So they were either uninsured or underinsured, and they're fighting with the state, they're fighting with the county, they're fighting with the EPA. I know Lee Zeldin will make that a little bit better. And, you know, they see that these hundreds of billions of dollars are going to people to get car loans and start their businesses who broke the law and came here legally,
right.
and they don't have a shot in hell of rebuilding their lives. It's so unjust, it's criminal.
But Democrats have so moved the line on what illegal looks like at the border, and Trump is putting back the legality down at the border, saying if you come here between checkpoints, if you know that you're evading our detection systems, if you're doing everything you can to keep us from knowing that you're here or who you are when you get here, you clearly have crossed illegally. I mean, this is not hard to figure it out. So figuring out whether or not we're spending money on those people here, that shouldn't be hard either.
Yeah, and Open the Books has done a phenomenal job for years on calling to our attention the waste, fraud, and abuse. That's how we know $3 trillion in overpayments or improper payments have been made at the expense of our tax dollars with federal agencies over the last 10 years. That's how we knew Fauci was the highest paid government employee forever, right? So here, this is par for the course. I want to point out this, that when we talk about the priorities reflective of Americans' values, reflective of what we think our tax dollars are going to, why is there not a greater support by Democrats to ensure that it's in line with those priorities? Why can't it reflect proportionately those polls that you read earlier? And we talk about the horror of, as they paint the GOP over clawing back, for example, the grants and those things. Well, we know that in remember all of the arguments, the calls to divest all of the taxpayer dollars from funds, from public pension funds that went to the gun companies, for example. Then they had a major issue there with it not aligning with their values. So why here does it fall on such deaf ears when there are so many millions of Americans many of them veterans and more, and underserved communities that need that money so
Amen.
much more than people who aren't here legally.
Well, I go back to real quickly what Kennedy said. It's because the money has shifted so many times, we can't tell what the original purposes were. I mean, talk about mission creep. Apparently, they've got mission creep when it comes to spending our tax dollars. Paul?
Yeah, classic money laundering, it looks like, right? They're just hiding in shell game.
You would know.
Yeah, I'm telling you. So, you know, it's such a denigration of American citizenship, right? The American people are starting to feel, I think, like the wife who finds out that the husband's spending all his money on the mistress.
And cheating on her.
Because all of this money is not going to us. And, you know, Milton Friedman, I think it was Milton Friedman, said, essentially, you can't have both open borders and a universal welfare state.
Amen. Right.
Those two things are in conflict. You can't do it. And at the same time that we've been doing all of this, you're importing millions of unskilled labor. Now, look, America's the place to be. I get that. If I was stuck in one of these countries, I'd probably be scheming to get to America as well. But the bottom line is that our economy, our nation, the world is changing. And we essentially don't need 20 million more unskilled workers. The whole world is becoming mechanized, robotics, AI. We're importing people we're not going to be able to employ. So all along here, the entire thing has not been shepherded by a controlling mind, and the mind we needed here was the executive. And obviously, we didn't have one. We're paying for it now.
Boy, that is a big point. I mean, when you look at the technological, and now next you've got quantum computers coming.
Exactly.
I mean, it is mind-boggling bringing unskilled workers into the fold here. They'll be on the dole for the rest of their lives if they stay.
Yeah, no doubt. And I looked at where some of this money went through the NGOs, and one of the items just stuck out to me as galling, and it was to repair the credit history of some of these migrants. Repair the credit history.
Come on,
Do you realize 45% of Americans carry credit card debt? Do you realize Bankrate came out 3 days ago with a survey that found 1/3 of Americans have more in credit card debt than they have in emergency savings? So imagine half the country in credit card debt, and then you learn the money went to migrant credit history. To your point, Emily, the homeless veteran, the single mom out there, the victim of illegal immigrant crime. This is so insulting on so many levels. But let's repair the credit history of migrants, a worthy cause on your dime.